Hello, good morning. My name is Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. Welcome once again to another edition of the Wisdom Card Series. Today is January 7th, 2021. And today I will be talking about, based on the card deck, based on my father's book, The Mastery of Love, published by Amber Allen Publishing and Hay House Publishing. Today's card goes like this. Love is responsible for its actions. Everything you think, everything you do has a consequence. And you are going to experience the consequences of your actions in one way or another. All human beings are completely responsible for their actions, even if they don't want to be. At this very moment, I am the infinite possibility because I am alive. And at the same time, at this very moment, I am the sum of every decision that I've ever made. Every choice, every yes and every no has brought me to this very moment in time. But at the same time, exactly at this very moment, I'm the youngest I will ever be because I have my whole life ahead of me. How do I want to live it? How do I want to engage it? The beautiful thing about those questions is that only I get to answer that question with awareness, with free will. My father always taught me this lesson, which was corroborated by my science teachers when I was going to school, which goes like this. In order for an object to move, there needs to be a force that moves that object. If I use and replace a couple of words there from my tradition, it goes like this. In order for the tonal to move, there needs to be a nahual that moves it. Nahual has three different definitions in our tradition. Spiritual teacher, spiritual guide, but the most important one to me is the force that animates the tonal. You might know it as spirit, you might know it as soul, you might know it as intent, life, God. Whatever your tradition says it is, in my tradition we know it as the nahual. And the nahual animates the tonal. Tonal means matter or object. And it also means my body, because my body is an object. I am not this body. I'm the force that animates it. Because I know that in the moment of my last breath or my last heartbeat, I don't take this body with me. So I am not this body. And I'm also not this mind. I'm the force that animates both, which means I am the whole. This is the whole. And this infinite possibility is expressed through the will, otherwise known as my yes and my no. To have free will is to be able to say yes and no with a complete freedom of life, to say yes to the things I want to say yes to and no to the things I want to say no to. To have personal freedom is to be able to say yes and no with a complete freedom of life. And to respect life is, life has all the right to say no to me, just like every individual in life, from my beloved to my friends to my family. To respect them is to respect their capability to say no. And that respect comes from respecting myself. My no is just as powerful as my yes. It's like learning to say namaste. In order for me to say the sun in me honors the sun in you, I first learned to honor my own sun. Because once I learn to honor that, when I say the sun in me honors the sun in you, I know what I'm talking about because I've experienced that action. My no is just as powerful as my yes. This is free will. But like my science teachers as my father, they taught me this other lesson. For every action, there's a reaction of equal force. Every action has a reaction of equal force. And that reaction, I also know it as a consequence, the result of an action. A consequence is not just a punishment. It's just simply the result of an action we take. So to love myself unconditionally is to respect myself, to say yes and no. To have personal freedom is to assume responsibility for my yes and my no. Because I only control to the tips of my fingers. I don't control the will and perception of another. So I completely focus on my own. I am completely responsible for my intent. I'm responsible for the integrity and clarity of what I say, and I'm completely responsible for my yes and my no. Like Uncle Ben told Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility, which also means to love myself is to respect myself, to experience the consequences of my own actions, of my own choices. And that is true for me as it is with everyone in life. Because that's the way life teaches us, through the consequences of our actions. If we sometimes hear the word consequences and we completely see it as just punishment, well, that's the corruption or distortion that we've used in order to domesticate each other with conditional love. I love you if. If you live up to an expectation, you're worthy of love. And if you fall short of that expectation, you're worthy of the punishment. But to respect myself is to see that that consequence is much more than punishment. It is the result of every action. And from that action, we learn. And from those consequences, we learn. Good, bad, right, or wrong. To respect ourselves is to assume that responsibility, which gives integrity to our word, to our action. It's what allows us to be impeccable with our word. With all my love and gratitude, thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to co-create with one another in harmony. History will show the consequences of all our actions in our life. It is the sum of every decision we've ever made that brings us to this moment. And at the same time, we're the youngest we will ever be. How do we want to live the rest of our life? How do we want to engage it? What do we want to create? We move history by the way we choose to engage and move the story forward. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.